Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop at that time in his career, uncontested. This movie leans into that in a couple ways that does keep it fun and within character.
Everyone remembers Beverly Hills Cop as one of the greatest action comedies ever made, but almost nobody knows how close it came to becoming a completely different movie. Behind the unforgettable soundtrack and Eddie Murphy's legendary performance were last-minute decisions, unexpected setbacks, and behind-the-scenes twists that changed the film forever. Which unbelievable moments from the making of Beverly Hills Cop have stood the test of time? And which fact will surprise even the biggest fans? Join us as we uncover 15 unbelievable facts about Beverly Hills Cop. Number 15. The interesting inspiration. Before any of this existed in any form, there was a traffic stop on a California freeway that embarrassed the wrong person at the wrong time. The concept for Beverly Hills Cop was generated in 1975 by Michael Eisner, who was head of Paramount Pictures at the time. While driving an old station wagon he had first owned in New York City, Eisner was stopped for speeding on the freeway, and the police officer treated him with condescension because of the condition of his vehicle. Michael realized how much status in Los Angeles was driven by materialism and reportedly exchanged the station wagon for a Mercedes-Benz the following day. Michael remained at Paramount for years trying to develop the concept into something he was satisfied with, going through multiple writers and scripts before Daniel Petrie Jr. delivered the version that finally clicked in September 1983. Nearly a decade from traffic stop to finished film. The ego wound that launched a billion-dollar franchise. And once the concept finally existed as a script, the casting journey that followed was one of the most chaotic in Hollywood history, starting with a name you absolutely did not expect. Number 14. The actor who got paid $400,000 to do nothing. Before any of the casting decisions that defined what Beverly Hills Cop became, there was Mickey Rourke. And Mickey did not just express interest, he signed a contract. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer claimed that the role of Axel Foley was first offered to Mickey Rourke, who signed a $400,000 holding contract to do the film. When revisions and other preparations took longer than expected, Mickey left the project to do another film. A holding contract means Mickey was paid $400,000 to not take other work while the production got its act together. The production did not get its act together in time. Mickey's window expired. He deposited the check, walked away, and made the Pope of Greenwich Village instead. He collected the money and gave nothing in return, which is either brilliant or maddening, depending on which side of the contract you were on. Martin Scorsese was also offered the director's chair during this period, and turned it down, claiming the premise was too similar to Don Siegel and Clint Eastwood's Coogan's Bluff. David Cronenberg, the director of The Fly and Videodrome, was also approached, and also said no. The list of people who passed on Beverly Hills Cop before it became Beverly Hills Cop is almost as interesting as the film itself. Rourke walked, Scorsese passed, Cronenberg declined, and then the studio did something that nobody asked for. They gave the script to Sylvester Stallone. Number 13. How Sylvester completely reinvented the film. This fact never gets old, no matter how many times you hear it. Sylvester Stallone, the man whose two biggest films were Rocky and Rambo, the man who embodied quiet suffering and explosive violence in roughly equal measure.
You've written several scripts before, but was there any special reason for you to write this one, to write Rocky?
Received the script for Beverly Hills Cop, read a comedy, and decided it needed to be a war movie. Sylvester agreed to replace Rourke, but was less enthusiastic when he saw the script. Worried that the comedic tone didn't play to his strengths, he completely rewrote it, against his agent's advice, renaming the protagonist Axel Cobretti, removing most of the comedy, and playing up the action. Axel Cobretti. He renamed the character Axel Cobretti. If that name sounds familiar, it is because Sylvester later used it in Cobra, the 1986 film he made with many of the ideas he developed for Beverly Hills Cop. He essentially wrote himself another movie, while supposedly writing this one. But despite the sacrifice, how close did the whole thing come to collapsing all over again? Number 12. The secret script handoff that changed the film. The story of how Eddie Murphy ended up as Axel Foley is not a clean studio decision made in a boardroom. It is a sequence of events involving an unauthorized studio action, a parking lot conversation, and a contractual arrangement that Eddie was already locked into for completely separate reasons. Without consent from producers Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, Paramount gave the script to actor Sylvester Stallone. The producers wanted Eddie Murphy, but the studio went around them. Sylvester rewrote everything and eventually left. During this period of chaos, Simpson's partner Jerry had a chance encounter with Eddie Murphy on the Paramount lot. Eddie Murphy's casting in Beverly Hills Cop was announced in April 1984, meaning he went from unknown quantity to confirmed lead in a matter of weeks, with production already underway.
In Beverly Hills Cop Axel F., which begins streaming on Netflix July 3rd, let's take a look.
The entire script had to be rewritten again, for the third time, to fit Eddie's comedic voice. And unlike Sylvester, Stallone and Eddie Murphy were not going to write it themselves. He was going to improvise half of it in real time. From parking lot handshake to production rewrite. But wait, who actually directed this thing? Because the man who ended up behind the camera had been fired from his previous film 2 weeks into shooting. Number 11. The director who bounced back overnight. Martin Brest was not anyone's obvious first choice to direct Beverly Hills Cop. He was a graduate of NYU Film School and the AFI Conservatory who had made one theatrical feature, a well-regarded heist comedy drama called Going in Style. His second feature, War Games, the Matthew Broderick computer thriller, had fired him 2 weeks into production. Martin Brest, freshly fired from War Games, was brought on to direct Beverly Hills Cop after the likes of Martin Scorsese and David Cronenberg passed. Two of the most celebrated directors working in cinema had already said no. The studio went to a filmmaker who had just lost a job. That is either desperation or inspired instinct. And given what Beverly Hills Cop became, it was inspired instinct. What Martin brought to the film was a clarity of vision that overrode the chaos of its production history. He had a specific aesthetic in mind, something that felt urban and kinetic, influenced by early hip-hop and electronic music rather than the orchestral scores that comedies of the era typically relied on. He knew what he wanted Axel Foley to feel like before a single frame was shot, and he was direct and confident enough to fight for that vision when the studio pushed back. Brest's direction on Beverly Hills Cop launched a career that included Midnight Run, Scent of a Woman, and Meet Joe Black, films that are tonally completely different from each other but all share a quality of precise character observation that Brest brought to everything he made. The fired director became the architect of one of the decade's most successful films. And here is the part about Brest that most people completely miss when they watch the finished movie. Number 10. The director gave himself a cameo as a hotel checkout clerk, and nobody noticed. Martin Brest put himself in his own movie without announcing it. In a blink and you miss it moment that most people have sat through dozens of times without registering. You can see the film's director, Martin Brest, uncredited as a Beverly Palms hotel checkout clerk. It is a Hitchcockian move, the director placing himself in the background of his own work as a quiet signature. Brest appears in the hotel sequence, plays his single scene, and disappears without the film drawing any attention to the fact that the person behind the camera just stepped in front of it. This kind of self-insertion is more common in the indie film world, where directors with small budgets occasionally fill supporting roles themselves. For a major studio production with a proper casting process and a star whose screen time was already in high demand, having the director moonlight as an extra is a charming anomaly. Most people who have loved Beverly Hills Cop for 40 years have no idea Brest is in it. The film was full of people showing up in unexpected capacities, and the next entry involves a cameo that was the direct result of a personal favor Eddie Murphy called in for his buddy's little brother, a little brother who would later become extremely famous. Number 9. The Banana Man role that started Damon Wayans' career. Damon Wayans did not audition for Beverly Hills Cop. He did not go through a casting process. He got the role because Eddie Murphy knew his older brother and wanted to help him break in. That younger brother was Damon Wayans, and he ended up being cast as the fruit vendor Axel gets his bananas from to pull off his tailpipe sabotage scene. Damon went from the Banana Man in Beverly Hills Cop to Saturday Night Live to In Living Color to a career that produced The Last Boy Scout.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, that was my first job in show business, and Eddie Murphy actually wanted me to play Surge.
Major Pain, and ultimately, My Wife and Kids. The film debut that nobody cataloged as significant turned out to be the first step in a 30-year career, from the background to the foreground. The next fact involves the man who literally stole a scene from Eddie Murphy in the middle of the movie's production and the impersonation that made it happen. Number 8. How Surge was invented. Bronson Pinchot was not hired to be a standout character. He was hired to be a gallery assistant. Originally, 2 men were supposed to be working in the art gallery scenes. When the director heard Bronson Pinchot's Surge impersonation, he thought it was so hysterical that he scaled back the other part to give Pinchot more screen time. The second actor shows up briefly, with his shirt collar open too wide, and Surge comments on it. The impersonation Pinchot created, that unplaceable, vaguely Eastern European accent with the precise diction and the total sincerity, was not in any script. Bronson Pinchot invented the persona of Surge himself after being inspired by all the shop assistants in Beverly Hills whose nationality was ambiguous. He had worked in Beverly Hills. He had observed these people. He took the essence of what he had seen, amplified it to comedic perfection, and walked into that gallery scene with a fully formed character that nobody had written for him. The gallery scene between Eddie Murphy and Bronson Pinchot was largely improvised. Eddie's Axel Foley persona and Pinchot's Surge bouncing off each other turned it into one of the film's funniest moments. Pinchot did not just hold his own against Eddie Murphy, he matched him. In a film built entirely on Eddie's improvisational genius, the art gallery scene is the one moment where the audience's attention genuinely splits between 2 people. Pinchot built an entire television career off that one scene, going directly from Beverly Hills Cop to 8 seasons of Perfect Strangers as Balky Bartokomous, another character defined by an invented accent and total comedic commitment. Surge launched Balky. One improvised impersonation in an art gallery changed the trajectory of Bronson Pinchot's professional life. Now we are about to get to the most chaotic improvisation story of the entire production, and it involves Eddie Murphy, extreme exhaustion, a cup of coffee, and one of the most memorable monologues in the film.
Number 7. The Super Cop's Monologue. Eddie Murphy does not drink coffee, or didn't, because he considers it a drug and has abstained from all stimulants his entire life. During the police station sequence in Beverly Hills Cop, the production ran long, and Eddie became genuinely exhausted. The crew offered him coffee to get through the remaining shots. He refused. Eddie Murphy became very tired while filming the police station sequences. The crew offered
him coffee, but he refused to drink it because he refused to take drugs of any kind. Eventually, he relented and took small sips of coffee to stay awake. He became very energized and ad-libbed the Super Cop's monologue. During the Super Cop's monologue, Ashton pinched his face hard and looked down in apparent frustration. He was actually laughing. Reinhold put his hand in his pocket and pinched his thigh really hard, trying to prevent himself from laughing. Both supporting actors were on camera while Eddie delivered this monologue. Ashton is gritting his teeth and physically harming himself to maintain composure. Reinhold is doing the same thing from inside his trouser pocket. The restraint they both show in that scene is almost as impressive as the monologue itself. The improvisation engine behind this movie was running at full capacity throughout the entire shoot, and the next fact reveals just how completely that engine shaped every key relationship in the film. Number 6. The chemistry between Taggart and Rosewood. Judge Reinhold and John Ashton did not just have chemistry on screen. They generated it in the casting room during their audition, and what they produced in that room ended up in the finished film almost unchanged. To cast the roles of Rosewood and Taggart, the director paired various finalists and asked them to improvise to get a feel for their chemistry. He paired up Judge Reinhold and John Ashton and gave them the following direction. Judge Reinhold immediately picked up a nearby magazine, and the two improvised the 5 pounds of red meat in his bowels bit almost exactly as it eventually appeared in the movie. The scene where Rosewood reads health statistics about undigested red meat collecting in the colon, and Taggart stares at him in tired disbelief. That was their audition. They walked in. The director gave them a direction about being a married couple having an average evening, and they produced a bit that was funny enough to go almost verbatim into the final cut of a major Hollywood production. Eddie Murphy, John Ashton, and Judge Reinhold improvised most of their comic lines. Literally hundreds of takes were ruined by cast members, actors, or the director laughing during shooting. The laughter problem was so pervasive on this set that it became a running production challenge. Every time Eddie found a new angle on a scene, someone in the frame would crack. Every time Ashton and Reinhold riffed on their dynamic, Eddie would lose it. The director had to find constant creative solutions to capture usable footage of people who genuinely could not stop making each other laugh. Now there is a detail about the Sylvester era of this script that almost sent the whole film in a completely different direction, and it involves a character who nearly got killed off before the movie even started. Number 5. The version where Billy Rosewood was killed halfway through the script. In one of the previous drafts written for Sylvester, the character of Billy Rosewood was called Siddons and was killed off halfway through the script during one of the action scenes. In the Sylvester Stallone version of Beverly Hills Cop, the character who would become Billy Rosewood was simply a supporting casualty of the action plot. He existed to give the audience stakes and then died dramatically. The friendship that became the emotional core of the comedy version of the film was never part of Sylvester's plan. Speaking of things that almost never existed in their final form, the theme song that everyone on the planet can hum was almost thrown out before anyone heard it. Number 4. Axel F. nearly got its composer fired. Harold Faltermeyer is the German musician who wrote the synthesizer instrumental that became one of the most recognizable pieces of film music in history. He nearly got fired before that happened. The interesting thing about that song is that, first of all, nobody wanted to have it. Faltermeyer recalled, "I got close to the fact of getting fired from the movie because I tried several different themes. Nobody liked it, and it mostly has to do with the fact that, at that time, scoring a comedy was always done with an orchestra, with the cartoonish kind of themes. The idea of doing an electronic score and doing that with one of the most successful comedians we had in America at that time, Eddie Murphy, made the studio nervous. Everybody was nervous. Now, from the music to the money, because the box office performance of Beverly Hills Cop was so far beyond anyone's expectations that it changed how Paramount thought about the summer movie model entirely. Number 3. It was the biggest R-rated movie in history. For nearly 2 decades following its release, Beverly Hills Cop held a specific distinction that is rarely mentioned alongside its box office records. For nearly 20 years after its release, Beverly Hills Cop was the biggest R-rated film of all time. It held that title until The Passion of the Christ surpassed it in 2004. An action comedy about a fast-talking Detroit detective casually held the all-time R-rated box office record for 2 decades. The completed movie made such an impression on Paramount executives that they committed to a sequel moments after the first private executive screening of the finished film. Not after the opening weekend, not after the reviews in the screening room, before it had been seen by a single paying customer. The studio looked at what they had and greenlit Beverly Hills Cop 2 on the spot. From the box office to the awards, this movie did something that almost no comedy ever does at the major award ceremonies. Number 2. The screenplay got an Oscar nomination. Comedies almost never get recognized by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for their writing. The Oscars have a historical preference for drama, for films that deal with weighty subjects in heavy prose. Beverly Hills Cop got a nomination for Best Original Screenplay at the 1985 Academy Awards. The script ultimately earned Daniel Petrie Jr. an Oscar nomination. It was a rare instance of the Motion Picture Academy recognizing a comedy. The nomination went to Daniel Petrie Jr. and Danilo Bach for their story work.
And his passionate commitment to his fellow writers, we are so proud to present the 2013 Morgan Cox Award for Guild Service to our friend, Dan Petrie Jr.
The structural architecture of the fish-out-of-water comedy. the character relationships, and the logic of the investigation that gave Eddie something to react to. The script was the container, the performances were the contents. Both had to work for the film to succeed as completely as it did, and the Academy nomination acknowledged the container's contribution even as the film's cultural legacy centered on the performances. Beverly Hills Cop was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical, and the soundtrack won a Grammy Award for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media. Now we are at number 1, and this is the detail that most people who have seen the film multiple times have never noticed. Number 1. The interesting detail about Axel Foley's Mumford t-shirt. In almost every scene where Axel Foley is on his home turf or operating in his natural mode, he is wearing a gray sweatshirt that says Mumford across the chest. It looks like a prop. It looks like something the costume department invented to give the character a background detail, but it is not. Axel Foley's t-shirt is from Mumford, a real-life Detroit area school that one of the filmmakers attended. When the film came out, the school got orders for the shirts from customers all over the world. Mumford High School in Detroit has a genuine place in American cultural history because someone who went there brought a piece of clothing to a film set, and it ended up on the torso of the most charismatic leading man of the decade. The school that produced Axel Foley's wardrobe became globally recognized. Which of these 15 facts were you not expecting? Sylvester's Freight Train Lamborghini finale, the fact that the Axel F theme was 3 separate cues assembled for a record release, or that a Detroit high school got international sweatshirt orders because of this film. Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.